What do you think are some of the biggest issues facing your district?
The biggest issues facing House District 45 today are education, and I would say homelessness and infrastructure, the turnpike, the rollout of the turnpike in that order. Those are the top three. There's others that we can dive into on top of that, but those are the ones that my constituents are most concerned about at this time.
Representative Menz has said that her platform also includes public education. So, what
Great.
can be done to improve schools in Oklahoma? Do you think that is?
Yeah, I think at this juncture, what we absolutely need is a robust and aggressive teacher recruitment program. So I think that the best way forward in public education at this point is to restore the rhetoric in public education that recognizes teaching as an honored profession, that recognizes that it's a public service, much like being a police officer, a firefighter, or a service member, and then working to make sure that that climate is there, but also that we have benefits, pay, recruitment packages that reward teachers coming to the state of Oklahoma and then ensure that they are here for 10 and 20 and 30 and 40 years. And they're able to pass on what they've learned and what they know to the next generation.
There's a bill that has been authorized to give landowners right of refusal when dealing with eminent domain. So, what else can be done to protect landowners in your district?
Right. I think that whenever you talk about the turnpike as an issue, the issue that my constituents have is not the turnpike as such. It's actually the way that turnpikes are rolled out, the way that turnpikes are done across the state. And what it's reflective of is an inconsistency and the signal from the government that these people are not being put first, they're not being thought of. And so there's a lot of different legislative avenues that we can take to address that. But I think the bottom line is that we've got to ensure that we've got legislation in place to bring the Oklahoma Turnpike authority under the full authority of the state legislature, that it's not quasi-governmental, and that transparency and accountability is placed first so that my constituents and all Oklahomans know that during this process, they're going to be treated fairly.
Well, you've kind of touched on it a little bit in your last one. So this is just kind of a sidebar is what should be done about the expansion in general.
Right. Well, I think what you're seeing right now is we've got some executive action that's being taken place on this. Namely, the Attorney General and the State Auditor of Oklahoma are taking a really close look at the OTA, and they're concerned about contracting practices, financial controls, and things like that. So I think we have to take a close look at that and slow down and review all the information at hand and see if there needs to be legislation that follows up on that. I think that at this juncture, that's the most important thing to keep your eyes on, and that's the thing that we can take action on once the full information comes to light.
So with the current makeup of the legislature, couldn't electing a Republican increase the odds of House District 45 getting their priorities passed?
Yeah, absolutely. So, the fact of the matter is that we live in a Republican supermajority state, and being a Republican supermajority state has turned out to be more complicated than we thought because there's a lot of different points of views and different priorities that different Republicans have. And so, what House District 45 needs is a Republican that is laser focused on problem solving, on listening to all points of view within House District 45, leading from my point of view and my perspective, but listening to everyone and ensure that first and foremost, that their values, their concerns, and their problems are being addressed in the state legislature. The way that you're going to do that is through working through a Republican caucus with a Republican.
Is there anything else that I didn't ask that you want to touch on or say, or any last points that you want to make?
Yeah, sure. So just for those that are viewing, I'd like to share a little bit about my story and why it's relevant to what I'm doing. So I was born in House District 45. I was abandoned when I was born. I don't know my birth parents, but I was adopted as an infant and grew up out in Tuttle. But I was born on the corner of 12th and Alameda, as far as we know. And there used to be a Buy for Less there. I was left there by my birth mother, whoever she may be. And what that really taught me is that the state of Oklahoma has given so much to me, even from the very moment of my birth. The reason that I'm doing this is to give something back to that state. And much like my service in the Marine Corps, what this is about is doing my share of the task, providing a public service to my fellow Oklahomans so that we can live in a better state and have a brighter future.
So what are the biggest issues facing House District 45 right now?
Well, Tristan, the number one issue in my district is transportation, specifically the turnpike, which is something that folks in my district do not want. Then coming in a close second is housing, and that also kind of informs the turnpike issue because there are going to be lots of families and homes displaced from it. And we also have education as one of the top issues in the district as well.
Your platform is investing in public education. So what can be done to improve our schools in Oklahoma?
Well, I would say the number one thing that we need to do to invest in our schools in Oklahoma is expand the free lunch program. That's something that I've been very, very passionate about. It was one of the first bills that I filed. I was also able to host a bipartisan, bicameral interim study last year to look into ways that we can pay to expand the free lunch program in our public schools. And another big obstacle to making our schools better for all of the kids in our district, in our state, is to rein in Ryan Walters, to provide more guardrails for he and his school board to work toward better outcomes for our kids and for our communities.
You authorized a bill that gives landowners right of first refusal when dealing with eminent domain. What else can be done to protect landowners in your district?
Well, this is a good question. So this touches on one of the two reasons I finally decided to run. Before running for office, I was nonpartisan staff in the legislature for 7 years. And I finally decided to run for two reasons. And I call them the two T's. So teachers and the turnpike. And so I was able to join with my Republican colleagues to get the Landowners Bill of Rights passed this year and signed into law, protecting our landowners from eminent domain. There's still a lot of work to be done. And that's something that I am intent on doing and excited to go back to doing, which is what got me an opponent, unfortunately, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop. So there are things that we can do to protect people's property and people's land from being eminent domain for the purpose of a turnpike or what have you. And those are things that I'm going to be working for sure.
You talked a lot about the turnpike. What should be done about the turnpike expansion projects?
Well, I think that it's important that the Turnpike Authority be brought under more legislative oversight. Right now, we have a group of folks who are unelected making these decisions, and they have little to no legislative oversight because they're not an appropriated state agency. So I think bringing them more under the purview of the legislature, because we are the voice of the people and we have a direct line to the people through our elections. And so that's something that is very important to do.
With the current makeup of the legislature, couldn't electing a Republican increase the odds of House District 45 getting their priorities passed?
Well, the priorities of House District 45 are being passed by me. It's very important to note, especially this year, that being a Republican at the state capitol guarantees you nothing. It guarantees you nothing, except maybe an invitation to their caucus on Mondays. But we've seen many Republican incumbents unseated, high-level leadership unseated in primaries. And so being a moderate, being far right-leaning, I mean, they are at odds with each other so much that the guardians of sound policy and the will of the people are the Democrats. No one's telling me, my leadership is not telling me what I can and can't do, what I can and can't say. If I take stock, when I take stock of what is needed by the people I represent, I'm going to go out and I'm going to do that. And my leadership understands that. They're not going to ask me to vote one way or another just for the sake of saving face for their own party. So this is a very serious question, and I'm really glad that you asked it because, again, being a Republican in that building guarantees you nothing.